I was in the mood to do anything. It was merely a thought. I crossed my arms. I was, but it was just a thought. Sam stared, blinking a couple of times in silence before stepping back and nodding.
All right.
I smiled, happy to know that he was still a courteous guy. He respected me, and that was what made him that much more wonderful. I was filled with glee at the thought that I would one day marry him. With a nod of my own, I slipped into bed with him and closed my eyes. I had to prepare myself for whatever the dragon had planned. I half expected to wake up to Diana being disguised as Sam as the morning came. However, as I awoke, I was happily in the arms of the man I loved. Despite the tired fog over my vision, I could sense that the man who was holding me was the true Sam. The way he held me gave it all away. As he pulled my body close to him, I giggled, knowing Sam was awake. I know you're awake.
No, you don't, you doofus.
I laughed and kissed his nose softly, causing Sam to open his eyes. As he gazed into my eyes and smiled, I felt my heart completely swell in joy. I'd almost forgotten about the day ahead. All I wanted to do was stay in bed with him a little longer.
Morning.
Morning. Sam lazily leaned forward and kissed me before pulling me to his chest and sitting us both up.
Come on. Time to get up.
What happened to the plans of sleeping in till noon? Do we have to? As I asked, I could sense a new determination from Sam. Something about him seemed confident, despite having just woken up. I tilted my head and placed my hands on his shoulders, curious as to why that was. Hey, what's got you so energized? Sam turned his head and looked in my direction, giving me a surprised look himself.
Huh? What do you mean? I'm always energized.
Not in the morning, you're not.
Well, that's good to hear.
Sam and I looked over at the door suddenly to see Diana leaning against the archway, holding 2 large plates of food. I was surprised she was able to carry them. Both plates were piled with food that looked absolutely delicious. Sam and I practically salivated at the sight before Sam shook his head and glared at Diana.
You ever learn how to knock?
Rude, but that's okay.
Well, we have a lot to do, so I figured knocking would only waste precious time. My apologies.
Diana walked over at last and handed us our plates before stepping back and crossing her arms. Sam began to chow down as I took the slower approach to eating what I was given with a laugh.
So, are you prepared for your test, dear?
That made me stop and look up at Diana. She knew that I was next? She already devoted herself to the dragon before, so it wasn't surprising. But maybe she knew what exactly was in store for me. I couldn't be sure. Do you know what my test is? Diana nodded as Sam looked up to see her answer. I gulped, now a bit worried. Can you tell me?
Unfortunately, no. I cannot. If I could, I would, dear.
I grimaced, looking to the fireplace and knowing that the dragon was probably watching. I half expected him to answer for Diana, but he didn't speak. My mind began to fill with ideas of what it could be about. What was I going to be tested on? How was it going to go down? Would I have to fight? All the possibilities lingered in my thoughts as Sam finished his food.
Hey.
I looked to Sam, feeling him rub my back gently with his strong hand. I felt some comfort in the gesture, and more from the smile on his face.
You'll be fine. I believe in you.
Somebody has to. Yeah, I always kiss him. I was happy to know that Sam believed in me and supported me. I gave him a loving peck on the lips, causing him to stare wide-eyed with a blush. I had to giggle at the sight while Diana rolled her eyes and let out a groan. Diana, however, looked to the fireplace.
I will say this, though. It should be easy for you.
Huh? It should be easy. Diana nodded before turning around and looking over her shoulder to maintain eye contact with me.
Yes, that is, if you believe in your love.
I stared wide-eyed at Diana before she turned and walked away, leaving me and Sam alone. I grew curious and concerned, but I had to let it go for now. The test was apparently tonight, so I had to wait. As I arrived in the hall for training, I was surprised to see Diana in the room instead of Cero. Diana? Diana turned to me and crossed her arms, taking in my form.
You will be training with me today. I apologize for Sero's absence.
What do you mean? Where's Sero?
He asked to train on his own for the day. As he will be in the front lines of the siege, I granted him permission.
I pressed my lips together into a fine line, but nodded. If he was charging at the front, then it made sense that he'd want to take a day and work on himself. I held my hand out and summoned my weapon, ready to fight the Queen of the Rebellion head-on. All right, then don't hold back. Diana nodded and prepped her stance, summoning her saber and bringing it back behind her. I had to use this new training partner as a new experience. Not everyone would fight like Sero, so this was a good challenge for me. Fighting with Diana was no easy task. She was quick and thought 10 steps ahead of me, catching me off guard at some points. Still, I could tell that I was putting up a good fight with my defense. What surprised me was how time passed by without me even noticing it. The more I clashed with Diana, the more ignorant I became of the sky's eventual descent from light purple to dark orange. Soon enough, our training had ended. I panted, out of breath, but surprisingly still on my feet. I didn't understand how or why, but I could only assume that I was getting better, which was a good thing. Diana smirked as she relaxed, stretching back and making her saber vanish.
I will admit, dear, you've done well for just a handful of days.
I grinned, happy to hear that I had impressed Diana with my skills. I only trained for a couple of days, but showed great improvement. Maybe the demon world was aiding me in becoming a stronger person. Thank you, Diana. Diana nodded before walking to the exit of the room.
Now, please excuse me. I must see to the boys. You are free to come with if you'd like.
I declined and left the room as well, towards the opposite direction, feeling my bed calling to me. Besides, I didn't want to be a distraction. As I was heading to my room, I passed by a door that was only open a small crack, overhearing a quiet conversation.
This idea is idiotic, guard. Leaving during a war could be considered treason, and you would be abandoning your duties to your mistress.
I know that, but...
Peering. I stopped walking and peered inside, wanting to see what was going on. Sero was standing steadfast by the large fireplace. A shadow, arrogant as ever, loomed over the small table that was covered in maps and books.
Do you really think a quest like this is beneficial to the war? All it would do is leave us with one less powerful ally for a significant amount of time.
I would not be gone long. I've researched this.
Yes, I've researched this route multiple times. You've already spouted that more times than I care to appreciate. Regardless, even if things did go your way, and you journey there and back without some form of incident, you would turn up a day before the siege. Your mistress will not likely forgive your absence.
But I have a feeling that this will be worth that absence. If I can do this, if I can prove that my love for her is real.
You are having delusions of grandeur. Love does not exist for us demons. This quest is folly.
I glared at Shadow. Why was he being such an ass? Sero, however, looked to his feet, gritting his teeth and shutting his eyes.
You came here and asked for my counsel, guard. I am merely telling you the truth of the matter. Whatever hope that human placed in your mind is illogical, and only a detriment to our cause. I hope you take my words into careful consideration. Nothing fruitful will come from this journey you wish to undertake.
As he finished speaking, Shadow faded into a black shadow on the ground and slipped into the dark corner of the library, vanishing from sight completely. Sero growled beneath his gritted teeth and slammed his fist against the mantel behind him, forming a large crack in the stone.
Damn it!
Into the room. Shadow was wrong. Whatever Sero wanted to do to prove his love for Diana was worth it. I felt my heart agree with my thoughts, with a firm thump in my chest. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door and entered the room. Sero looked up at me with a startled gaze when he heard the door creak as it opened.
Oh,
Sero looked down at the table, embarrassed, while he rubbed the back of his neck.
How long were you there?
Long enough to hear what Shadow said about me. With a frown, Sero turned his gaze to his feet. As I stepped further into the room, he let out a sigh.
I've been thinking a lot about what we've talked about. You asked me if there was a way to prove my love to Azair. Well, there is a way.
Really? Hody hum. Sero nodded before ushering me over to the table. I walked over and looked at what Sero wanted to show me. A large set of maps all pointing to a single area in the abyssal plains near the ocean.
There's a legend that has been passed around the demon world for eons. The Golden Rose. It's said that if someone finds its hiding place and proves that the love in their heart is real, the rose will blossom and become physical proof of their true love.
Is this legend true?
No one can say for sure. No one has ever found it, yet the legend exists, so it must have some form of merit. I've tried for years to find its location, and now I have.
Sero pointed at a hand-drawn circle on the map and glided his finger along the map towards the area where the rose was said to be.
It would only take me 2 days to get there and to return. If the story is true, then I'm positive I can find it and bring it back to Azair as proof of my love.
As Sero finished, his smile darkened to a sad grimace.
However, I have been advised against this journey, and for good reason. I would be abandoning my lady days before the final battle, and that alone could be considered treason. Even more so, would she forgive me for leaving at such a crucial time?
I looked at Sero's face, seeing the conflicting emotions running through his eyes as he stared at the maps in front of us. Was it really worth it?
Still, this may be my only chance to do this. When we win this war, my lady will require me to be by her side more so than ever. I must be there to support her at all times when she rebuilds this broken world, but I would lose the chance to prove my love to her.
I didn't know what to say in response. While I wanted him to do what he felt was right, there were so many things that could go wrong. What if the legend was false? He would be gone for nothing and would come back empty-handed. What if something happened while he was away? He wouldn't be able to return in time to help. Or what if something happened to him on his journey? He wasn't invincible. I closed my eyes, trying to figure out what to say to him. When I realized what I wanted to say, I spoke up. You should go. Sero really loved Diana. It was plain as day, and if she wasn't persuaded yet from his words and dedication, this journey would convince her. It was worth the risk if he really was in love with her. She was strong enough to handle things on her own while Sero was away. Sero looked to me in surprise as I smiled at him. If this will prove your love to her, then you should find the rose and give it to her. Whatever the risk is, if you believe it's worth it, then do it. Something in Sero's eyes glistened, as if a spark had been ignited, and the hope in his heart began to burn with joy. A smile grew onto his face as he nodded, now determined.
You're right. I'll leave tonight and come back with the rose, even if it's the last thing I do.
Good luck. I grinned widely. I was happy for him. To see Sero so determined to prove his love filled my soul with joy. As he stepped towards me, I watched as he wrapped his arms around me, giving me a friendly hug.
Thank you for your help. I won't ever forget this.
Friendly. You got this. I smiled and hugged him back, patting his back. At my words, he squeezed me tighter before letting me go. Sero nodded to me before rushing out of the library, most likely to set off on his journey as quickly as possible. He needed all the time he could get. I, however, felt my heart give an approving thud in my chest. I had done the right thing. It raised a question, however. Would I have done the same for the one I love? After a brief moment, I nodded to myself. Yes, I would have. I left the library and headed towards my room, now filled with determination of my own.